Welcome back. In this video, we will talk about another example of how to solve a problem using nested if elif. So in the long previous video, that was the first example of how to solve a problem using nested if elif. This is the second example of solving a problem using nested if elif. So let's go through the problem. The problem says, write a program to ask the user to enter the country. So the user will be entering the country, and the user will also be entering the profession of 5 people. Don't forget that it's 5 people. So what your program has to do, count and display the number of people who are USA, UK, India, and Canada. So out of 5 people, you need to group them by how many of them are USA, how many of them are UK, how many of them are India, how many of them are Canada. Right? That's the first requirement. First of all, you are writing a program to count the number of people from each one of these countries, right? So that's the first requirement. The second requirement is that within each group, within each country group, count and display the number of people from the following profession. Count the number of people who are programmers, count the number of people, doctors, lawyers, and accountants. And if the profession doesn't belong to any one of the above, you display this message. So again, the first requirement is you group these people into different countries, and within each country, you group them by these professions. So how many variables do I need? First question you ask is how many variables? So obviously you need a country variable, you need a profession variable, and I want a variable that keeps track of people from USA count. I want a variable that keeps track of people from UK. I got a UK count, and I need a variable to keep track of all the people from India. So I got an India count. I need another variable to keep track of all the people from Canada. So I got Canada count. So far, 6 variables. So if you see over here, I got 6 variables. These 2 variables for country and profession. Then I got one for to keep track of the USA people. I'm using that cell. To keep track of the UK people, I'm using this cell. To keep track of the India people, I'm using this cell. And to keep track of Canada people, I'm using that cell. And then within USA, I want to keep track of how many people are programmers. I'm going to use this cell for. And within USA, I want to keep track of all the doctors. I'm going to use this cell for. And within USA, I want to keep track of all the lawyers. I'm going to use that cell for. Within USA, I'm going to keep track of all the accountants. I'm going to use that cell for. Similarly, these cells are for UK programmer, UK doctors, UK lawyer, UK accountant, India programmer count, India doctor count, India lawyer count, India accountant count. Similarly, Canada doctors, Canada lawyers, and Canada accountant. So you as a programmer, you need to know how many memory cells do I need? What is the purpose of each one of these memory cells? So just write these down, or if you want to draw them out here, you can do that. So let's suppose somebody types the country code of India and the profession as programmer. So which cell do you think I need to increment? I need to increment this cell by 1 because the person is from India and the profession is programmer. So I need to increment this cell here by 1. Suppose somebody is from, let's say, USA and the person is lawyer. The user types country as USA and profession as lawyer. As a programmer, what cells do I need to increment? I need to increment that cell by 1, and I need to increment this cell by 1. So these are all the different cells that we will be using in our program. So before you start writing the program, before you even start writing the instructions in plain English, think about how many cells do I need? What is the purpose of each cell? The 2 things. How many cells do I need? What is the purpose of each cell? So by analyzing this problem here, we realize that, okay, we need 1 cell to keep track of the country. We need another cell to keep track of the profession. We need 4 cells to keep track of the, for each one of these countries. And then within each country, we need to keep track of the different professions. So we need 4 more cells for each one of these countries, 4 cells for each one of these countries. This problem requires nested if elif. So the outer if elif is used to group the people by country, and the inner if elif is used to group the people by their profession. So again, the outer if elif is going to be used to group people by country, and inner if elifs are going to be used to group people by the profession. So let's do this in two phases here. Phase one, just write the code to input the country, input the profession, and just write the outer if elif, the outer if elif. That's all. You just write that. So here I have already written that. I take the country, I take the profession, and I'm checking if the country is USA or lowercase USA count is incremented by 1. If the country, if it is not USA, then you move on to the second condition here, where you check if the country is UK. If it is UK, then you increment UK count by 1. If it is India, increment India count by 1. If it is Canada, increment Canada count by 1. If the user types a country that doesn't belong to any one of these, then you display that message. Then you can basically write this, test it out, make sure everything is working fine. So the basic idea is not to tackle all the nitty-gritty details at once. So I want to construct this in phases. I want to construct the outer in phases, right? Outer if elif first, and get this working. In the phase one, this is all you're going to construct. Just like when you're constructing a building, all right? When you're constructing a building, you are not going to start thinking about what am I going to paint here. You can, let's go ahead and finish the construction and then think about what you're going to paint on this wall. And you can always do that later on. But if you're trying to think too many things at once, it can be quite confusing, especially for a beginning programmer. So as a beginning programmer, it's always construct this incrementally. Incrementally means outer if elif. This is basically a skeleton. This is a skeleton, outer if elif. So we have written code using if elif to group people by the country. Now, once you get this tested, you go ahead and fill this here. You write another if elif condition here to group people by profession within USA. Another nested if elif here to group the people by profession for UK. And another if elif here to group the people by profession for India. And another if elif here to group the people by profession for the country Canada. So to keep it shorter, I have already typed these things. I'm just going to, so for US, I have copied the code over here. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to put it over here. Done. You see, always build it incrementally, and your thinking process should also be incremental. If you're trying to do too many things in a single step, that can lead to a lot of cluttered thoughts and then can lead to frustration and all of that. So to avoid that, build it incrementally. That's my suggestion. So now here you see, if you look at this if condition here, if the profession is doctor, doctor uppercase, and USA doctor count, increment that by 1. If it is a lawyer, increment the lawyer count by 1 USA. If it's a programmer, increment the USA programmer count by 1. If it's an accountant, increment USA accountant for 1. If the profession is none of those we have tracking here, I'm sorry, here, this should be the profession group under USA is not counted. So we got that. Now do the same thing for UK. So I got the code for UK. So I'm going to copy this code from here, put it for UK, boom. Pay attention to the indenting here. It's very critical. This is the body of that if condition. This line here is the body of this elif condition. Similarly, the body of an if or elif should always be indented. If it is at the same level here, you see, right away it complains. Invalid syntax. It won't tell you that you need to indent it. All it tells you is invalid syntax. So the computer doesn't know, the Python doesn't know that this is the body of elif. How do we know that? Only by indenting. So we took care of UK. Now we'll copy the same thing for the next country. I'm going to copy that, India. So same thing here, as you see, done. I'm sorry. This is supposed to be under Canada. Okay. So we got UK, Canada, and here, I think this is India. Change that to profession, copy this, and put it under India. So we went into in detail in the previous module exactly how this program works and all of that. So if you haven't watched that, make sure you watch it. So I'm just going to run it once. First of all, one more thing. So this is for one person. I'm going to clean it up here. So basically what it's doing here is taking the country and the profession of one person, country and the profession, and then it's going to increment one of these cells, and then if it is a USA, it's going to increment one of these cells. If it is a UK, it's going to increment one of these cells. If it is the India, it's going to increment one of these cells. If it's Canada, it's going to increment one of these cells. For every single person, that's what it's doing. Again, one more time. You're going to take a country and you're going to take a profession. And depending on the country, you increment one of these. And depending on the country, if it is USA, you increment one of these. If it is UK, you increment one of these. If it is India, then you increment one of these. And this is again, if it is Canada, you increment this. And incrementing this is accomplished by the inner if elif, whereas incrementing one of these is accomplished by the outer if elif, right? Remember that. So now I have written for one person, right? Then obviously you need to copy paste this 4 more times. Copy that. That is for the first person. This is for the second person. I'm going to change that to second. So we got for the second person, then third, you know what I'm doing, right? Fourth, and then the last one is the fifth person. So you may be wondering, what if I have 100 people? Am I going to copy paste this 100 times? Wouldn't that be inefficient? You are absolutely right. So how are we going to solve this? That's the topic of the next discussion, is about looping, where you just write it for one person and then put it inside the loop, so to repeat it for as many times as you want. So now we will save it, and I'm going to just run it through once. Run it, turn the debugging on. I will put the breakpoint at the beginning of this here. Run it. So it's asking for first person, country. I'm going to type, let's say, India for grammar. Now the country is India, right? Obviously, it's not going to match with this condition. It's going to skip this condition. Will it match the second condition of the outer if elif? This is the second condition of the outer if elif, right? Does it match here? Obviously, no, because the country is India. Now, does it match the third condition of the outer elif? Does it match here? Yes, it does, right? So it's going to go inside this now. It's going to increment the India count by 1. Now, it is going to go through the inner if elif. It's at the first condition of the inner if elif. Does it match with the doctor? No. Does it match with lawyer? Does it match with programmer? Yes. Now you see India programmer count gets incremented by 1. Boom. And it's not defined. What happened? India programmer count. Sorry about that. Did we not create this variable? India. Okay. We call it India prog count. Okay, I'll change that to India programmer count. And what about USA programmer count? I think all of them we did like that. Programmer, Canada programmer. And so this is again fixing the bugs, right? Canada programmer count, India programmer count, UK programmer count, USA programmer count. Okay, I think we covered all of that. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, let's run it one more time. First person is India, grammar. We are at the outer if elif. The first condition of the outer if elif doesn't match. Second condition of the outer if elif doesn't match. Third condition of the outer if elif does match. India counts increment by 1. Profession doesn't match. Now we're in the inner if-elif. Programmer matches India. Programmer count. Yes, there you go. Now we moved on to the second, right? We're done with the first. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here. Similarly, I'm going to put a breakpoint over here so that I don't need to go through all these lines. I'm going to put a breakpoint here. So where are we? Where did we stop? There you go. The country of the second person is, let's say, Canada. Profession of this doctor. So now we are, does this match this? No. Does this match this? No. We're in the outer if-elif. Country is India. Does this match this? No. Country is Canada here. Does it match this? Yes. Canada count increments by 1. Now the profession is doctor. Canada doctor count incremented by 1. So you moved on to the third person. Let's say third person UK. The profession of the third person is, let's say, lawyer. Doesn't match with USA. Doesn't match with the second condition of the outer if-elif. Yes. UK count goes up by 1. Profession, does it match with the doctor? No. Does it match with the lawyer? Yes. You see incrementing the UK lawyer count by 1. Now we're moving on to the fourth person. Fourth person is country of the fourth person. Let's say USA. Lawyer. Now we are collecting the data for the fourth person. So country, does it match? Yes. Does it now increments the USA count? Now we are in the inner if-elif condition as a part of the nested if-elif condition. Does it match with the doctor? No. Does it match with the lawyer? Yes. USA lawyer count increments by 1. So now we are moving on to the fifth person. Taking the fifth person, let's say India. Profession, let's say doctor. So now we are collecting the data for the fifth person, and we are processing the data for the fifth person. We are at the outer if-elif, and we are at the first condition of the outer if-elif. We are checking see if the country is USA. It doesn't match. Country is UK? No. Country India? Yes. India count goes up by 1. Now we are in the nested if-elif, right? We are checking the profession so that we can group the India people into different professions here. First is doctor. Yes, it matches. India doctor count by 1. Okay, we reached the end of the program. For some reason, there is a syntax. Okay, I forgot to fix this. So obviously, it's going to crash when we when we run this. Okay, now we step through this, and so I displayed all of this. And UK programmer count, it is supposed to be that, and Canada programmer. Okay, I forgot to fix that. As you know how it works, right? So basically, the rest of the code just displays the data that has been collected into these various variables over here. So thanks for watching. This is the last video on the branching instructions that we have covered quite a few scenarios. So we covered the simple if conditions, and we covered the Boolean logic. We covered the if-else. We covered the nested if-else. We covered the if-elif. We covered the nested if-elif. So it's quite a bit we have covered, and in the future videos and the next module, next chapter, we will be covering about loops. As I mentioned here, what we have done is copy pasting the code for 5 people. We don't want to be doing that because that's inefficient way of writing the code. So instead, we write the code for 1 person and then put it in a loop, and so that it repeats for as many times as we want. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.